Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the B2B Marketing Asia podcast. I'm your host, Joe Escobedo. Joining me today is Joven Barceñas, who is the founder of MARKETECH APAC. So for those who aren't familiar, maybe you could share how you got started.
It started during my darkest days. That was when the pandemic started. I think it was April 2020. So around February and March 2020, I was already planning to move to another company, which is also another marketing-centric publication. So I was very hopeful that finally I can go back to the job that I am very much familiar with. However, in the first week of April, I still remember that clearly. The company withdrew their offer, saying that the UK started locking down and the company decided to halt training. So it was very shocking news and very sad news for me. So the issue here is not just about me going back to marketing-centric publication, but most importantly, securing a new job in Singapore. So during the time, I was with a small startup marketing research company, and I was advised that they're letting me go. So that was another sad news. So I was in the most uncertain moment of my life. So that was a very huge possibility that I won't be able to find a new job during the start of the pandemic in Singapore. And definitely that could actually lead me and my family go back here in the Philippines. And I have to be ready if that happens. So at that time, I had two options. So first, it's use our financial resources to stay longer in Singapore without income and try to find a job, really push hard to secure that visa so we can still stay in Singapore, which we call home, for 10 years. And second, to build something on my own that will allow me to do what I do best, which is in the field of marketing-centric publication. So it was very difficult for us to give up our lives in Singapore. So I desperately asked people around for a job, drained our financial resources. But when the time is up, so we have to leave. So it was a very painful moment to leave our careers and our lives in Singapore. But yeah, I think the reason why I started MARKETECH APAC is for survival, really for survival. So during the peak of the pandemic, so I need to create something to earn a living and build something that I know that I can be successful.
Yeah, I think you and I definitely have that in common. The reason I started my company is as well because it was laid off and trying to get the visa here is difficult enough. So I definitely relate to that struggling because I was in the same situation. Like you said, very dark days, but you have obviously came out of it so much stronger. So I'm really proud of you and what you've been able to accomplish. And you know what you've done. I'm keen to hear like how you've grown it. So how you've went about growing the audience since those dark days.
Yeah, actually, how I started this, well, actually, to give you some context here, October 2018. So when I left my ex-employer in a similar space, right? I told myself that was not the end of my journey in marketing-centric publication. I have so many plans and aspirations that I want to achieve and build my own that will allow me to do whatever is needed to create a well-connected marketing community in the Asia-Pacific region. So there were a lot of consultations I had with the people I trust in the industry. Half of them were very encouraging, and maybe other half of them are not so encouraging. So combining all of my ideas and all of their inputs I gathered from my friends in the industry, I came up with MARKETECH APAC. So I started MARKETECH APAC alone. I asked someone to build a site. I need to do a lot of things, but what makes it easier for me is to build something from the ground up is because of the support of my wife, Giselle, who instantly became my graphic. So in December 2022, that's the official start when we try to do business. A good friend of mine in Malaysia encouraged me and supported me. And that was the first paid content we did. That was where we launched MARKETECH Expert to Close. So the first webinar we did was targeting marketers from higher education. Our client is based in Australia. They were targeting marketers in Singapore and NZ. And also the highlight of our 2021 last year was when a global customer engagement company reached out to us whether we can do virtual roundtable, which we successfully delivered. A month after, their competitor reach out to us if asking whether we are doing report promotion. So I immediately created the package. We actually didn't do it. We're not actually doing it, but because there's an opportunity for us to do it, I immediately created the package and hire a web developer to create and build custom type landing page for our reports promotion. So that was very encouraging for us, and looks like that they are very happy because they have doubled their investment with us in the first quarter of this year. So building MARKETECH APAC is not easy. So many sleepless nights,
Yes.
you know this. So many things to be done, so many things that you have to learn. You need to force learning them, right? Because you don't have, for myself, I don't have funds, right, to hire additional people to do it, right? So I discovered many things about WordPress, Zoom webinars, email marketing tools, finance, HR. So I am looking forward to more incredible opportunities as we launch more initiatives this 2022, which is again aligned to our mission to create a well-connected marketing community in APAC. Yeah, so that is how I started the company. And I guess your another question is about the growth of the company. Okay, I honestly don't know, and I'm very surprised by our growth. But by looking at the things that we have done in terms of our audience growth, putting the right people in the editorial team with the right mindset and alignment to our mission, I think that was the key reason for our audience growth. Our stories are not just copied and pasted from press releases. We deep dive into them and create the story as our own. So I guess that is what the brands appreciate, because we tell their stories based on our style and approach. So we made a lot of efforts to connect with agencies, with brands, and reach out for content collaboration with genuine, right, sincerity that is just about creating content that is important to the marketing industry. And in terms of our financial growth, which is another surprising achievement that we have for this year, I guess when we work with our partners, we act as their extended team outside of their own. We're doing a lot of legwork to bring their target companies. We're really showing them that we are consistently communicating with them with updates on regular basis, which gives them peace of mind, which is very important. And I'm giving them the confidence that at the end of the campaign period, we are hitting more than the agreed KPIs. And a lot of my clients would attest to this. Growth strategies should be very agile. I started MARKETECH APAC by listening to different views of industry leaders. So whenever we work with clients, we invited them for post-mortem meetings just to know their overall experience working with us and to identify the good things that we did, and also the bad, maybe not the really bad things, but I think the things that we need to improve on. So listening has always been our core.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the client KPIs. What are some of the KPIs that you think are commonly occurring in your space?
Yeah, so let me share with you. So when I was still in my previous company, right, a lot of my clients were actually telling me, I'm meeting the same people in the same event. So it's not actually giving them a good result. Even, you're giving them maybe 100, 200 people attended the event every year. But if they are seeing the same people every year, then it's not helpful for them. So what I actually put here is whenever we work with our clients, before we start our campaigns, we ask them for their target companies. So we concentrate on what matters to them, what companies matters to them. And then from there, we're going to check whether the list of the companies, the target companies is already on our database. If they are already in our database and we build it, okay, we're going to come up with our internal database for our client. And if these companies are not on our database yet, we find them on LinkedIn, connecting them, asking them for press releases, asking them for stories, thought leadership pieces. So that's our way to connect with the brands. So that's, I think, the reason why we are very successful in hitting our KPIs.
So it sounds like you build a relationship beforehand. You said you asked them for press releases, you invite them to different thought leadership pieces. And then when it comes on to a client engagement, they already know who you are and they feel, okay, that makes perfect sense. I think it's a good way to build a relationship.
That's right. That's right.
Have there been any learnings in getting them involved in some of these? Is it just about saying, hey, we'll feature you in our publication, or there's like other things, learnings that you picked up along the way in terms of getting these guys on board?
You mean our clients or the? Okay, there are situations wherein they will be because once we get their email address, then our editorial team will send them an email and telling them what we can write about, and these are the guidelines and so on. Some of them will tell us, oh, we have something that will come up maybe next month. We're going to share it with you very soon. And then some of them will just connecting us with their PR team. But we have written a lot of articles out of this initiatives when we reach out to these target companies. Because what happens there, right, is when we are writing, after writing the stories of these brands, that's the time when we are going to tell them that we have something for them. Yeah. So that we have a webinar or we have a report that they might be interested in. So most likely they will be engaged with us. Yeah. So creating that rapport first, and then of course there should be a value of that webinar, for example, or that report, for example, that would be good for these brands to attend, to sign up, or to report the downloads, for example.
That makes perfect sense. I'm going to ask you a controversial question because you talked about building relationships with people and obviously featuring their brand. What are your thoughts on the promotions pieces? I'm talking about someone gets promoted or someone gets a new job. What are your thoughts on those pieces?
For me, right, it's always about going back to our mission. The other thing that is we want to celebrate, okay, with people's achievement. If that is one way of telling of us telling them that, hey, we're very happy with your promotion. We're very happy with your appointment, right? Here's the article that we wrote about you. Good luck. If there are case studies or campaign launches that you're going to be doing in the future, please send it to us. So that is another way of telling to the people that, or these marketing leaders, that we are very sincere, okay, on creating content. Not just about them, but for the brand, for their brands, and that will be very useful for the entire marketing community. So I don't have anything against about it, but for me, I'm okay to write it to celebrate the success of these people. So there's nothing wrong about it.
Yeah, no, I think yours makes out because you are a very genuine, sincere person, and like you want to see people do well. So I think that fits within your personality. I just questioned that's on my mind. So I appreciate you sharing that. Earlier, you mentioned as an entrepreneur, you're doing all the different things. What has been your kind of biggest learning since starting the organization?
My biggest learning. Okay. Never second guess yourself. Believe in yourself. I doubted myself when I was in the very early stage, really thinking about how I can maintain the operations of MARKETECH APAC using my very limited resources, given the fact, right, that we were in Singapore for many months without income. So there was a time when I was actively looking for investors because of my fear that I won't be able to continue MARKETECH APAC's operations. So instead of concentrating on sales, I reached out to people, but it didn't turn out well. But definitely January this year, right, I only forecasted triple of 2021 revenue for the entire 2022. But we were blessed with partners who have trusted us to deliver their campaigns for them. And this May, we have already quadrupled our 2021 revenue. So if I continued doubting myself and just depend on the money of the investors, I would not be in this position right now. So I just have to keep on believing in myself and believing in my mission. And with this financial, I would say, achievement, right? So this allowed me not just to secure my family's livelihood for the entire year, but also to secure the job or the jobs of my current team. And this also allowed us from growing from 5 people to 20 people. Half of them are doing part-time, and then we invested in some operational tools. Yeah. So lesson I learned, just believe in yourself. in myself and believe in the mission.
So that's good advice. Easier said than done. The more you go into it, because I think like every business, you have your highs and your lows. One year could be incredible. The next year, something happens and then it shakes things up. So good reminder for me as well to believe in yourself, even when things are down. Awesome. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you want to share with the rest of the community?
Okay. So since I have been saying about listening, and it's a really important, I would say, value, right, in any company, or maybe your personal values, because when you start listening, you would be able to gather a lot of ideas that will improve your offerings, your operate. And I'm not sure, I think, Joe, you have heard this phrase, right? Don't fix what it's not broken. So I heard this many times and I hate it. I hate it. So this saying is the enemy of growth. Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're using this phrase with your team, you're the enemy of growth. So as growth leaders, we need to always be open and challenge the status quo. We only grow outside our comfort zone. So listening to your audience, your clients, your partners, and your own people is the starting point for growth. So with all these collective ideas, data, we would be able to reinvent the company and its offerings, always in the testing mode and always finding ways to improve every time. And listening would always help us to create something new that our audience and clients would love. So that's the last thing that I want to share.
Absolutely. I can definitely attest to that. I think if, how we created our business, not to talk too much about our side, but every new offering, everything that we've developed has not been my idea. It's been people saying, hey, you should try this, or hey, you should do that, or why aren't you doing that? And we just started implementing it after a while. Yeah. So yes, I completely agree. The more you listen, the more ideas and opportunities you have. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing all those insights with us.
My pleasure, Joe. Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And for everyone watching and listening, please feel free to share today's episode. A lot of practical tips and even some ideas in terms of your mindset. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.